Since we're just testing today, I figured we'll go a couple different ways with the vehicle, a couple around the course here. First dirt hill, no problem, no challenge there. The issue, everyone, is backing up. See the rollover angle there on the back of the tracks. You get into an object that you can't back over, and it's trouble. Coming into our first rock section. Savox SW1210 steering servo. Traxxas complete BEC kit, so we're getting our positive 6 volts of electricity to that bad boy. On 6 volts, it's getting 277.7 inch-ounces of torque. Creep around the pond down there. Get about that 45-degree turning radius with those tracks on there. Just fitting through the over-under bridge there. Now where the track's going to do on the log pile. This will be interesting. Standard Trx4 tracks here, not the deep lug tracks. We've made it through. Down into the boring section, onto the bricks. More bricks. Trying to take it easy on my tracks, everybody, because I love these things in the wintertime. I really don't want to damage them too badly out here. And mainly that damage would be on the drive cogs themselves. I really don't like the idea of scuffing those up with sand and dirt and gravel. The more it's scuffed up, the more things are going to stick to it. Got her all fully flexed out there, back track hitting the body almost. I do have that trimmed pretty close. This next rock is a doozy. Tracks on rocks. Great for going forward, not so good for backing up. Once again, talking about that breakover, rollover angle on the back of the tracks. You get into a spot where you can't go forward, and you might not be able to back up either. Coming into our actual storm damage section, this might be interesting. I think those tracks are going to try to roll forward, which is going to be a bit bad for them. Made it through that. Tombstones and tree stumps. At least the tracks are giving us the benefit of spreading over the top of that stuff. But getting into these bricks, this could be deadly. Definitely a spot where you want to keep those tracks on top of the bricks. You fall down in those gaps and you're going to be done for. We could end up with the hand of God coming out of here. This might be a spot that not even a winch will save us. That is if we can't successfully navigate it. And we made it through. Coming up to our first brick hill. See how those tracks want to tow forward like that. Towing forward meaning like sticking their toes down. Little track spin, but we're climbing up it. Excuse my squeaky controller in the background. Steering wheel. Making a little noise on camera, I'm sure. Coming into the next hill. The steep brick hill. This one could be an interesting climb with the tracks on it. Who's to say if we're going to make it up this or not? Those back tracks are leaning back. Not getting any traction so much. We are spinning our tracks. See if we can get a piece of traction off to the side of the bricks a little bit. Good thing in the dirt maybe. And now we have our tracks off of the bricks. Into a spot where they're almost trying to climb straight up. It's not enough bite. Tracks are cold. Bricks are cold. The spot where tires would be more beneficial. Seem to be just spinning the tires here. I don't know if we're going to be able to get up this without using the winch. Try to snake our way around. This rock we're climbing on is not going to give us any traction. That big green one, blue one there, that thing is super smooth. There's our back tracks kicking upwards there, once again with that breakover angle on the rear. You can see if you had a big rock behind you how you'd be in trouble with that. And I believe we're stuck. pull that winch line out before I actually make it up to the top of the hill. I gotta wedge it into a rock. Oh, there it is. Off we go. Tracks on the adventure course. Terra Firma. Going into the stutter section. Definitely want to try to keep it on course through here. Try to stay on those rocks. You slide off of those rocks and you are doomed. Coming into the over-under rock bridge. I should say over-under log bridge. I've got so many bridges sitting around here in this corner. Over-under log bridge. Soon to be over-under rock bridge. Over-under brick bridge. Lots of over-unders around here. With the bridges. Guess the tracks are less than ideal out here, but people have been asking about them, so here we go. You hear those tracks skipping around and making noise. Definitely at risk for rolling over right here, that is for sure. Kind of lodged sideways right there in that crevice. And we're on a pretty good angle here. It's not going to get any better anytime soon. Unless we can get our front end to swing around. At that point in time, I could have unlocked the rear differential and just left the front differential locked. Even with the tracks, you're supposed to keep everything locked, but at that point in time, I could have unlocked the rear, left the front locked, and could have used that front like a dig mode, and just pulled the back end around. But that wasn't needed, so we were still trucking, coming over the log bridge. We'll stick in our way there, but we'll just crawl right over that if we can. Got some big gaps on these logs. So I'm not too sure how we're going to handle this. Get caught in one of these gaps, we might be in trouble. And keep clawing our way forward. And we made it. And coming down the backside, first drop was a doozy. The vehicle with tires, you can definitely feel that first drop as you're coming over the edge. Those tracks just want to tow forward again as you're going down the hill. You can adjust the spring tension on the shocks on the underside, but if you stiffen them up too much, it's a real problem cresting hills. Just can't get enough pressure down on the ground. And into our next brick section. Going into the off camber. This off camber right here is usually good for getting a tire off the ground. You're coming through here. Usually good for getting one front tire in the air. And we have everything on the ground, so we made it through successful. Trying to get this video done in a timely fashion today. Daylight is fleeting. I need to run to town and get some propane tanks filled. Tried doing that yesterday. The darn place says they won't fill tanks on Tuesdays and Thursdays of all things. This next section is our sand pit, which is currently swamped out apparently. Excess rainwater. Next year this is going to be all mud through here. We're heading into our over-under brick bridge. And we are spinning our wheels. Spinning our tracks. Not the easiest obstacle to get up with tires, let alone with tracks. You'd think tracks would be easier, but no, not so much. The fact of the matter is that you're getting less pounds per square inch with the tracks because it's spreading the weight of the vehicle across that entire track unit versus having it focused onto like 1 square inch of rubber on the tire. Easier to focus the weight on a tire versus the tracks. We're just not getting enough traction because we don't have enough weight down on the ground. It's like another winch situation. It's going to be an interesting winch situation because our winch is actually dangling right down between this gap on the rocks. So it's going to pull us on a weird angle here as we attempt to pull ourselves up and over this hill. As long as it puts pressure down on the front end, I think that'll be the moral of the story here. There we go. And we are up. Probably safe to assume that we're not going to make it up this log bridge or this teeter-totter either. There's not enough pounds per square inch, everyone. And we are not going to stretch out 12 feet of winch to get up that. That is for sure. So this is where we need to back up. And there is an example of our breakover angle on the back track. We got lucky on that one, but we could get this thing jammed up very easily over here. It's a nice thing about snow, if you're running the tracks on the snow, is that the snow covers the surface of the ground and gives you a nice blanket over top of everything, which definitely makes it easier for backing up over things. Rounded surfaces versus square edges. We're going to try to take the bypass trail and see if we can make it up the rocky bypass here. This could be challenging with tires, so I can't imagine what it's going to do with the tracks here, if we're going to be able to make it or not. This is a slick run. Basically just trying to use the tracks to hook over top of the edge of these rocks that possibly pull us over with the servo. Using the servo as well to help pull us over the hill. And we made it. Continuing along with the rocky bypass. Not the best environment for the tracks, that's for darn sure. But it's doing it. You can imagine a couple trips around the track, how much wear and tear it would put on your track units. This is just one trip around the course here. You start trying to do this every day, and you're going to have some serious problems. Now right now, we have our front passenger side track bound up on this log over here. Just doesn't want to make it over that angle. Track is towing in once again. Force it up and over. And we made that. Our way down and through our pit of despair here. Back up the other side. Piece of cake. The rocky switchback. This is going to be a tough journey through here. Trying to back up in here is not going to happen very well. We're going to come to a spot where we're going to need to back up like right here. Even with that Savox SW1210 steering servo in here, it still doesn't have quite enough torque to get the job done. 277.7 inch ounces on 6 volts, not quite enough to get the job done. Not quite enough, really, to get these tracks moving. Much better with that Protek 370 TBL. Now we could be looking at another rollover right here in the making, or a rollover in the making if we're not careful on this descent. Oh, breakover angles trying to back up. Tracks in the sand, getting loaded up. Seeing that passenger side track kind of shifting sideways a little bit there as I was trying to make the turn in reverse. Getting bound up on the wall over yonder. And not the best environment for tracks, everybody. Which is what I've been trying to tell people. Track unit Trx6s or Trx4s are all fine and good. Like I said, definitely better in snow than just about anything else. Some slick rocks here. We're just going to aim right up to the left and try to continue on up this rock path if we can. Head over to the new section of the course since we're just about finished with the old one. A couple more hills to go and we would have been done with that one. So we'll move on to the new course. A little slick there on that rock. See that? I wonder why I wasn't turning. Had my passenger side track wedged in a rock on the other side.
Try to speed this journey up a little bit here in the slow spots. Yeah, temperature and things of that nature definitely come into play as well. It's a chilly day. Sure, if it was a little bit warmer, these tracks would probably be doing a little bit better out here. Especially out on the brick sections. That cold brick is hard to get traction on. Cold tracks, cold brick, cold dirt. If everything was a little bit warmer, you'd probably have a little bit more benefit on the bricks and rocks and things of that nature. Dirt and things like that, should be a piece of cake for the most part. Climbing up some of these hills, I'd imagine we'll be okay.
Have to excuse the track conditions. End of the year. Fall weather, things of that nature. Pretty much one of the last runs before we start cooling down and getting snow here. Like the very next day. Yep, happened that fast.
It's currently 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so having the lights on, it's kind of a cold, overcast day. And Traxxas look better with lights on it today than did without.
Getting a little slick on these wet logs. That's what she said. We move into our first little storm damage section. Man-made storm damage. Seems to get a little bit bound up right here. Okay, we're free.
Less than stellar hill there. Normally that's full of moguls and pits and dips and whatnot all the way around that corner. It's a little bit washed out at the moment. Going around the outside, around the outside, around the outside.
Slick rock. Not so much slick tracks. Beach sand. Moving those tracks currently. Make this a bit of a fight. I have to use our servos to get us up this hill, I think. This is where we're going to experience the breakover angle with the back tracks. Yep, we are pretty much getting stuck right there. Can't really back up. Try to snake around the edge of this rock. Keep up in between this valley here. Alright, not so bad. Made it. Should get a cookie after making that climb. And heading into the next storm damage section. Man-made storm damage. It can be a wee bit of a nightmare to navigate sometimes with tires. A little bit more cautious going through here with the tracks on it than I am with the tires on it in all reality. A lot more things you can get snagged on in here.
Zip right down through all this nonsense. Come out of the trees there and head down into Prometheus. Get around Prometheus corner. Get back up to our big log crossing. We're approaching this on the easy side, so this shouldn't be too terrible. Everything is pitching downhill once again, all pitching towards us. So everything is essentially leaning to the driver's side. When that log gets wet, like it is, you can tell it's saturated. It can be a fight with tires, especially coming up the side that we're going down currently. You get onto that wet log there, and it's nothing but Spin City. Into the over-under log crossing. Not much room to spare with that rack on the back of the tracks. We'll sit up quite a bit in the air of the old truck.
And on our way back up and out and into the over-under rock bridge. That next hill is looking pretty rutted up on that other side over there. I don't think we're going to have a problem in the dirt with tracks on it. A little bit rutted up there. Some rain runoff ruts. Erosion. We're just crawling right up through those guys.
Heading into a construction zone and on over to the sand hill.
I say construction zone, this whole area is under construction. Started this fall here and just never got a chance to finish, so that'll be a springtime project.
To take away once again from the video. This one right here with the two holes in it. I found that out in the woods. And that is an old plow stone, it looks like. Somebody had a rope tied to it right here. You can see the wear marks where a rope was in here and got pulled forward into this slot and it was being towed forward. So this is a plow stone, but it got towed behind a horse by Irish potato farmers, apparently. That's what I looked up online. They have a rope going through here, a rope going through there. It would be getting pulled in that direction. And the farmer would put his foot right back here and kind of ride it like a surfboard as it was getting drugged through the sand. So that is an old plow stone that I dug up out here. Thought it was a boat anchor at first, but that's plow stone. Once again, this is where a rope was pulled through here, and after time, it just wore its way through the rack. Pretty interesting. This other rock that's really interesting is this one right here. You see that? That's a handprint. Somebody literally picked this thing up millions of years ago and left their handprint on the rock. Right there. Perfect handprint, right here. Picking up this rock. So millions of years ago, somebody picked this up when it wasn't a rock, when it was still mud. And they left their handprint on it. How wild is that? Finger grooves. And they are grooved across there. As you can see, there's some definition of those grooves. That's pretty cool.
Bit of rock history as we move into our sand hill. Once again, all these rocks were found on site, essentially out in the woods, in the surrounding woods. I don't expect to have any problem with the sand up with the tracks. I think we're just going to walk right on up this without a problem. True calling for the tracks right there. Piece of cake. And heading around into the town of Old Stump. Bunch of gnarly tree roots around this tree stump. all dug out and accentuated. You just don't notice on some angles, but it does have some vicious angles back here on the back of these tree roots. Really easy with wheeled vehicles to get snagged up in here. Mainly getting your chassis snagged. Still navigating our way along, just coming out of Old Stump. Heading back down towards the main portion of the track. Past one of our last log cabins on the course. It was upright at the beginning of the year, and now it is condemned. Just another dilapidated cabin on the course. This next tree route, we're going to attempt to go over this one. Normally we wouldn't, just because it is pretty steep there in the middle, but you really can't tell. Once we get the truck on it, you're going to see it. This is a spot, if you have tires, you are probably not going to make it right up over the middle. You have to go around either side. And we might not make it with tracks either. Yeah, we are on the chassis right now. We can pull ourselves up and over it. We got a track jammed up on the other side. That root is actually inverted over there. So we're trying to force that track through something that it's not necessarily capable of doing, which is making it through this inverted portion right here. That's damaging right there. That's trying to twist the axle. It's literally trying to rip that track off of the axle as I try to climb over that inverted section. The track is towing in right now underneath that log. There's not much you can do about that, just because the approach angle on the tracks. Hopefully we can overcome it if we can hit it on the right angle here. This is a spot that not even a winch will help you really, because pulling on the truck could do damage to your rear axle. Pretty much stuck right here. We can't go forward, we can't go backwards. So even though we have a winch, everyone, we're going to have to give it a hand to God on this one, because we're not going to get over that even with a winch. Only thing that's going to do is pull our rear axle off. It's not going to make it over that. It's just too much of an inversion where it cuts back in way too far. We just can't make it. It's actually doing pretty good so far today. Tracks on logs. Probably not the best thing either. Definitely easier making it up this with tires, that is for sure. Way back down the log bridge. We already came down this section once, but this time we are crossing over the walkway. And wrapping around a different way. A lot of the rocks through here, the majority of them all have burn marks on them. One spot or another. If you don't see a burn mark, flip the rock over. There'll be one on the other side. Not from a fire pit, but from a forest fire. When this place actually burned down back in the early 1900s, late 1800s. At that point in time, it was all pine trees through here, I believe. And then all the hardwoods that we have currently is what sprouted up afterwards. Yeah, this could be a tough little section right here. It's going to be interesting to see how it does. We might actually get some traction off that tree, off the bark on the tree, more than the rock itself. And we are getting traction off of the bark on that tree. Having our differentials locked, it's helping pull us up the hill. That was a pretty good climb, really. Not too bad. You definitely have some trouble in this area with tires occasionally. We're still motoring along here. Crawling over quartz and sandstone. Big sandstone rock that we're on right there with the moss on it. Other rocks are more quartz again. Quartz filled. And into our over-under brick bridge. Interesting rock over there. Looks like it has a carving in it there at the base of it, right to the right of the truck. It looks like a pyramid shape, almost. Really, if you look at it, it almost looks like that smaller triangle on the right. Look at it kind of this way. It almost looks like a small pyramid sitting behind a larger pyramid, like it's being shadowed by the larger pyramid in front of it. That's probably not what's going on there, but it is that type of an optical illusion. Once again, that is carved into the rock. I don't know if somebody actually deliberately carved that into the rock or what, but it certainly looks that way. Aiming right for it. Pretty big section, as you can see with the track on it. Pretty big spot on the rock. On up we go. Now, we've gotten lucky in these rock sections. If we had to back up in here, we would be totally SOL. There's no way that you're going to be able to back out over some of these rocks. Once again, that rollover angle over the breakover angle on that rear track unit. Once you get stuck down in one of these rock crevices, you're not backing out of it. Only way out's going to be going forward. Unless you have a situation like we had with that tree root. And then you're really stuck. All you can do in that spot is hand to God. Making our way out, we've got a pretty gnarly runoff area right over here on the side. I think we're going to just try to aim for that rut. Try to make it challenging. Why not? We're here. The room's already paid for. Might as well do it. A little bit too strong of an angle on the approach angle on the driver's side. Track is getting hung up in there. There's a tree root down there that's snagging us pretty good. Right down there. Yep, we're not making it up and over that one. We actually have the track underneath the tree root right now. So don't think we're going to make it up and over that. Try to get up and around through this way. Push the limits of the vehicle here a little bit and put these tracks to work. We are getting buried. A little bit off course too. Get out of our rut and just go right up the hill. Shouldn't be a big problem. Or maybe it will. Little track spin going on there. Our stock 550 motor, stock gearing, low range. Now we would have been up that with tires. Just because we can get a little bit more wheel speed out of it with tires. Yeah, crawling wasn't going to make it up that. It's just a little bit too wet today. That was all speed or nothing. Making our way through the last hill and back towards the entrance. And the space exit. And there we go. That concludes the run with the vehicle. We've made it around the course with the tracks on it. And they are nice and dirty. And not as dirty as Ben Brewpaker's after running through his mud bog. Hats off to you, Ben, for that one. There she goes, making her way back out. This is the mess you have to clean up afterwards if you're playing with your tracks out in the dirt and mud and sand. So what I ended up doing was I took each individual track off each individual track unit. I turned the track inside out, used this little brush down here, this well-worn brush, and brushed out all the tracks as best I could on the inside. Brushed off all the bogey wheels as best I could all the way around. And then used an air compressor with some compressed air and blew off any loose debris that were in here. Grabbed a can of lube. Came back in and lubed up each one of these bushings on either side of each bogey wheel all the way down and around on both ends of the track. And made sure that it was good to go for the next round. Wear and tear on the tracks and things of that sort. Not much for the tread itself on the track, even though we were spinning on the bricks, not much wear going on there. Pretty hard compound on the tread itself here, so not much damage there. Only other damage that I really started seeing was that the drive cogs themselves were starting to get a little bit scarred up here and there, which is something that I don't necessarily care for. Personally, everybody, I bought these tracks for wintertime use only. Up here, we have snow on the ground for usually 7 months out of the year, so I primarily bought these for wintertime only. And having scratches and gouges on the drive cog is kind of a problem, because that gives ice and snow a place to stick and start building up on. So less than ideal in my situation. Yes, you can buy new drive cogs for them, and I'm sure they're probably relatively cheap, but not necessarily something that I intended on doing. Ultimately, I wouldn't mind having a set of these. It would be expensive, but ultimately, I wouldn't mind having a set of these strictly for snow, such as these that are already ported out for with the windows in them to let the snow out of them, and then another set for everything else in between. How do they perform out on the adventure course? Not too bad, all in all reality. I could see that if you're using them all the time on a daily basis that you would get some damage. Maybe not necessarily to the track units, but I could see some damage happening to your truck, possibly breaking something just because you're trying to force it backwards over something that it can't necessarily back over. Looking at a breakover angle on the back, that is the center point of the bogey wheel, the halfway point on the bogey wheel. Anything higher than that is technically too high to back over. So the track's going to want to do one of these numbers. So I could definitely see something breaking along the line if you're trying to force it backwards. Either breaking a portal right off the axle, ripping a track unit off of the axle, breaking a shock link, breaking a end link, something getting damaged from trying to force it in some direction or another. Another problem that we had out there, as far as problems go, was the track doing this little number over every little rock and pebble and thing that we encountered. Yes, that is adjustable. You can come in here and adjust the shock springs on the back of each one of these track units. They each have a shock on the back of them, front and rear. And you can come in here and tighten up the shock spring and make that a little bit stiffer. And that will make it less likely to go in on its toe like that when you're coming up against rocks and pebbles and stuff like that. The only real drawback with that, and tightening this up all the way, is that it really affects your vehicle when you're cresting over steep dirt hills and other things. Just because, bear with me here, resting the truck up on its back bumper. When you're going up hills, you're sitting like this. All the weight is on the back of the vehicle. So all the weight's on the back half of the truck. Makes the front half of the truck very light. Now, if you're crawling over a hill, let's say like this, about that steep, is about all it takes. What happens is if this is too tight, is that the track wants to ride right here on the bottom edge of the track as it's cresting over a hill, and it'll literally just do this and dance around on the top of the hill, fighting for traction and not able to flatten out. So if that is too stiff, this will not be able to rotate down, and you want this just about right. So it's not going to toe in so much when you're hitting small obstacles, but also soft enough that when you're cresting over hills, it's going to let that roll out like that and give you a nice contact patch on the bottom for getting traction, getting you over the top of the hill. Track performance. How do they perform out on the adventure course? Not too bad in all reality. They excelled in some areas, not so good in other areas. Our tree stump areas and the brick tombstone areas, they did great. Huge contact patch, able to float across all that stuff without a problem. Big sand hills, dirt hills, no problem, piece of cake. Once again, great flotation with the tracks by design, obviously. And they did great in that area, just like they do in snow as well. Only drawback that we really had was going up and over the brick hills and some of the rock hills, just not getting the traction that we needed, just because, once again, by design, these are designed to put down the least amount of pounds per square inch as possible, so spreading the weight of the vehicle across the surface of the tracks, which makes them, once again, great for sand, great for snow, great for mud, not so good for cresting over brick hills and things of that nature, just because we're not getting enough pounds per square inch on a little focused point to give us the traction that we need to get over a hill, like you would with a tire. Your contact patch is right down here on the bottom. Weight being pushed down on the tire, you can see your contact patch, and all your weight is being focused on that little contact patch there, which gives you exceptional traction for getting over top of hills, which you don't get so much with the tracks. So that is the one drawback with it. Once again, designed for flotation. Another good thing that I could see these tracks being used for is if you're driving your truck up and down rivers and through the lake and stuff like that, it would keep your truck glued to the ground. Tires in that situation are getting all the flotation and wanting to float. And your truck is wanting to bob up and down. The tracks, on the other hand, would keep you held to the bottom, that is for sure. And would probably work out pretty good for cruising up and down rivers and things of that nature. For my case, my situation, everybody, once again, I pretty much primarily bought these for wintertime use only. If I were to use them out on the track full-time, I'd probably want another set of track units, one dedicated just for snow, such as these that are already ported out to let the snow fall out of the tracks, and another set for everything in between. That way I didn't care about anything getting scarred up and damaged on the inside of here from running in the summertime. And it would definitely be fun, that is for sure. Winch. Yes, we got a chance to use the winch. That was cool. Definitely like that. It worked out flawlessly. No problem with the winch. Only thing I didn't necessarily like was this DSM recovery tow line. Other than the 250-pound braking capacity, which is kind of bad because technically everything else on the truck is going to break before that winch line breaks. That's a problem. Typically, I like running the Suffix fishing line for winch line. 36-pound test, 16.3 kilograms. So it's going to break at 36 pounds. So your winch line will break before your winch does or before something rips off of your truck. Another thing that I didn't like about the DSM recovery tow line is unspooling the tow line. It tended to bird's nest a little bit up here on a spool, and also had a tendency of bird nesting once you had it out of the vehicle. So when you had your winch line all unspooled and you're putting tension on it as you're unspooling it, and then you release the winch line for a second, it kind of bird's nests down here at the end. So wasn't too happy about all that nonsense, and that is definitely something that you don't get with this Suffix lead core high density, high tenacity polyester braid fishing line. It unspools nicely and spools up equally as nice. Only drawback about it is it's a slightly larger diameter than most winch lines. Very slight. So you will have to come in here and drill out your spool just a little bit. That way it will allow that winch line to fit in there. Other than that though, it does work awesome. And I definitely prefer this stuff. Most likely I'm going to be unspooling our DSM recovery tow line and digging through all the different colors on this line until I get to the yellow or the orange so I can restring our winch. Pound for pound, what gets it done the best in the summertime out there on the adventure course for summertime conditions? That would be tires. They are just more efficient all around than the Trax. That is for sure. You can get around the track a lot faster and once again a lot more efficiently with a set of tires than you can with the Trax. But that is going to do it, everyone. Very much appreciated for y'all sticking around and watching the video. As always, questions are always welcome, and we'll see you all on the next one.